The night was a thick, inky blanket draped over the forgotten stretch of Highway 87. My headlights cut a lonely, trembling path through the darkness, the only sign of life for miles. I was pushing my old sedan, trying to make up for lost time after a wrong turn had eaten up hours of my cross-country drive. The dashboard clock glowed a mocking 2:17 a.m. That's when I first saw him. He was standing on the shoulder, just past mile marker 19, his thumb stuck out in the universal gesture of the stranded. He was just a silhouette, a tall, lanky figure in a long coat, his face obscured by shadow. A shiver ran down my spine, the kind you get when something feels fundamentally wrong. Common sense screamed at me not to stop. It was the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night. So I didn't. I kept my foot pressed on the gas, my eyes locked on the road ahead, and the man in my rearview mirror quickly shrank into the darkness. I drove on. The silence in the car broken only by the hum of the engine and the low crackle of the radio searching for a signal. 10 minutes passed. 20. The landscape was a monotonous blur of dark trees and the occasional reflective sign. Then I saw it. Up ahead, bathed in the glow of my high beams, was another mile marker, number 19. And standing beside it, thumb out, was the same man. My heart hammered against my ribs. It couldn't be. I hadn't turned around, hadn't looped back. I was sure of it. I shook my head, blaming fatigue. It must be a different person, a weird coincidence. But as I passed him, the silhouette was identical. The long coat, the lanky frame. This time, I could almost make out a wide-brimmed hat. I floored it. The needle climbed past 80, then 90. The engine whined in protest, but I didn't care. I needed to put as much distance as possible between myself and that coincidence. I drove like a man possessed for what felt like an hour, the world outside a smear of black and gray. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. Finally, I allowed myself to ease off the accelerator, convinced I had left him far, far behind. And then, like a recurring nightmare, I saw it again. The small green sign approaching on the right. Mile marker 19. And he was there, waiting. This time, I slowed down, a morbid curiosity wrestling with my terror. As my headlights washed over him, he seemed to turn his head slowly, and though his face was still lost in shadow under the brim of his hat, I felt like he was looking right through me. A wave of cold dread washed over me so intense it made me nauseous. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a coincidence. This was impossible. I slammed my foot on the gas again, fishtailing for a terrifying second before the tires gripped the asphalt. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Was I hallucinating? Was I asleep at the wheel, caught in a looping dream? I pinched my arm, hard. The sharp sting of pain was real. I was awake. This was happening. Over and over again the cycle repeated. I would drive for miles, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, desperately searching for an exit, a town, another car, anything to break the spell. But the highway stretched on, an endless ribbon of asphalt. And every time, just when I thought I must be free, the sign for mile marker 19 would appear, and with it the silent, waiting figure. He never moved, never changed his stance, just stood there, thumb out, a patient predator. With each passing, the details became clearer, more chilling. The coat wasn't just long, it was tattered and ancient, looking like it had been exposed to the elements for a century. The hat wasn't just wide-brimmed, it was warped and stained. I still couldn't see his face, but I could imagine it, a canvas of horrors hidden in the darkness. Panic gave way to a strange, resigned terror. I was trapped in a loop, a prisoner on this phantom highway. The gas gauge, I noticed with a fresh surge of fear, hadn't moved. It was still hovering just above a quarter tank, exactly where it had been when this whole nightmare started. The clock was frozen at 2:17 a.m. Time itself had stopped at mile marker 19. I decided to try something different, something stupid, something desperate. The next time I saw the sign approaching, I didn't speed up. I slowed down. My car crawled forward, the engine's hum dropping to a low growl. The man at the mile marker stood as still as a statue. I stopped the car right beside him, the passenger window just inches from his silent form. My hand trembled as I pressed the button to lower the window. The cold night air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine and something else, something old and damp, like earth from a freshly dug grave. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "What do you want?" He didn't answer. He just stood there. But then, slowly, he began to turn his head. The movement was stiff, unnatural, like a marionette being pulled by unseen strings. The brim of his hat tilted upwards, and I finally saw what was hidden in the shadows. It wasn't a face. Where a face should have been, there was only a swirling vortex of darkness, a patch of night deeper than the sky around us. It was a void, a hole in reality that seemed to pull at the light from my car, at the air, at my very soul. There were no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just an endless, consuming blackness. From that void, a sound emerged. It wasn't a voice, but a chorus of whispers, the faint overlapping cries of countless souls, all speaking at once. "We just needed a ride," they whispered in unison. "We've been waiting for so long," I screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror that was ripped from my throat. I fumbled with the gear shift, slamming the car into drive and stomping on the accelerator. The tires shrieked as the car lunged forward, leaving the figure, the thing, behind. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I didn't dare. I just drove, my eyes wide with horror, the whispers echoing in my head. I drove until the black sky began to soften into a bruised purple, and the first hint of dawn appeared on the horizon. And then something changed. I saw a new sign. Mile marker 20. A wave of relief so powerful it almost made me pass out washed over me. I was free. I kept driving, and soon the sun was up. The world was normal again. I saw other cars, an exit ramp, a diner with a buzzing neon sign. I pulled into the diner's parking lot, my body shaking uncontrollably. I stumbled inside and collapsed into a booth, ordering coffee I couldn't drink. When the waitress came over, she saw the state I was in. "You look like you've seen a ghost, honey," she said, her voice kind. "Highway 87, I stammered. "The man at mile marker 19. Her friendly expression vanished. She grew pale. "You saw him too?" she whispered, leaning in close. "My brother disappeared on that stretch of road 10 years ago. They found his car by the side of the road, empty, right near mile marker 19. She straightened up, her eyes filled with a sad, knowing look. "Some roads, they don't lead anywhere. They just keep you. You're lucky you got away. Most people don't." I never drove on a deserted highway at night again. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still see him. The tall, lanky figure in the tattered coat standing on the side of the road. I can still hear the whispers from the void where his face should be. I know he's still out there, on that forgotten stretch of highway, forever frozen at 2:17 a.m. He's standing by mile marker 19, just waiting for the next driver who's lost and in a hurry, waiting to offer them a ride to nowhere. Thanks for listening to my story tonight. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there on the road, and whatever you do, don't stop for strangers in the night.